right, folks, welcome back to BrushPile Fishing, and we've got a brand new podcast for you today. Curt from PowerPole is joining us. Curt, how are we doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good, Russ. How are you doing this morning?
Good, man. Is it warm down there in Florida?
It is. We're mid to upper 80s most days, sometimes touching the 90s. So it's nice and warm down here in Florida.
Man, why ain't you out on the ocean catching some type of fish?
Some days it's too hot.
I hear you, man. I hear you. We've done some shows in Mississippi in the summer, in July and August, and trust me, it's warm down there too, man. So, but Curt, can you tell the people what exactly is your job with PowerPole?
Mostly marketing operations, whether it's project management, budgets, talking to great folks like yourself with TV shows and podcasts, radios, IOs for magazines and things like that. So anything that has to do with media, and then of course task and project management for our creative team. I request the ads, they build them, and I implement them.
Nice. You know, I can remember today's course. I've been fishing for a long time, but I can remember the days before there was anything called PowerPole. And if you wanted to anchor, you basically had anchors on your boat. You either dropped them down by hand, or sometimes, you know, we had a crank that you could do it. But man, it was a pain in the butt, especially for where I fish, because my home lake is 6 foot deep all the way across. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's no deep cuts or anything like that. So I am a shallow water fisherman. And when power poles came along, man, you talk about a lifesaver. And the show that always comes to mind, if you get a chance, and I think this is 2 seasons ago, we did a show on Lake Erie. Okay. And we didn't go out onto the main water. We fished the shallow bays in Lake Erie for crappie. And we had 6 inches of rain the night before. It was a mess. We were actually up in 2 foot of water. And if you spooked them fish, they were gone. So we needed to get there. We needed to get set and not move. And we used the power poles. And I'm going to tell you, man, it was awesome. The biggest fish I've ever caught in Ohio was on that show, 274. And we got great video on it. And I'm telling you, and if we didn't have power poles then to where we couldn't stay still, I probably wouldn't have got that fish. And people that use these, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it will spook easy. So how did someone say, let's do these power anchors so we don't have to do that? How did it get started, man?
It kind of relates to the story that you just told. And there's a lot of questions on, and in that exact scenario about you catching those fish in 2 feet of water is, you know, why do I need power poles if I've got a spot lock trolling motor? In that scenario, you just said it. If you spook those fish by that trolling motor spinning around and turning on, they're gone.
Yes.
And it was in the Bay of Sarasota Bay down here in Florida, that the inventor and owner of our company, John Oliverio, actually was running into that same scenario. He was fishing for redfish, which are spooky fish.
Yep.
Fishing in an event or pre-fishing for an event. I can't remember the exact scenario, but he found fish, he could locate them, but as he pulled up to them, they would spook off. So he would try the different methods of a mushroom anchor, trying to drop it down nice and slow to stop the boat, but it would technically run over the fish, or the wind would blow him off of exactly where he wanted to be. Yes. Because you got to let so much line out with the traditional anchor. And then the scenario that I just said with the trolling motor, if he spun it around to try and stop the boat and keep it in position, he'd blow the water out, blow the bottom up, make a dust cloud, and those fish would run away. So he got out his Legos and figured out a design in which would be, applicable to the back of a boat. And then, started making prototypes, found, got a patent on when he figured out exactly how he wanted to do it, went through a bunch of different scenarios, bunch of different power options, whether that was an electric cylinder or the hydraulics that we actually do use. And hydraulics just reign supreme in that instance. So that's what we went with, man. And it's just been, for the last 20 plus years now, we've been able to improve upon that design that he originally came up with, but the concept and the functionality is the same as the original design.
And I'm telling you, folks, if you fish shallow water at all and you don't have these, you're missing the boat. But anymore, any boat you see going down the highway or anything, they've got them on there. I mean, you guys are a staple in the industry now. And but you've evolved not just from the power, I guess I call it a power anchoring system or whatever. But then I can remember when you first put the paddles on the power poles. And again, dating myself a little bit here, but I can remember the days when, say, you were longline trolling or spider rigging, and if you wanted to slow down, a lot of us had log chains in our boat. So you would have to get this big log chain out, throw it out the back of your boat. Hopefully you don't tear your boat up too much, and then tie that down. And that's how we slowed down. Let me just tell you, the power poles with those paddles are a little bit easier, man.
The paddles came from walleye fishermen and crappie fishermen. It was kind of a combination effort to get something that wasn't a drift sock that you had more control over. And the first thing we did was we provided an eye bolt that you could put through the spike hole, the bolt that replaced the bolt that holds the spike in place, and you could attach your log chain to that. And that's what the first crappie guys were doing to continue to slow down their boat, like you were just saying. And then, the complications of a drift sock. I mean, pulling that wet, nasty thing into your boat after using it, just getting it back to your boat while it's deployed.
Getting lines tied up into it.
And then having that big parachute out the back of your boat. I mean, it's just not really an easy functional, especially when trolling. It's not a good functional unit to be using. And generally when you're fishing, there's wind. You rarely get those beautiful days. So the drift paddle, man, it was, the first one was actually a Tupperware lid with U-bolts bolted to a spike. And then we figured out a material and design that worked best to attach to our units that allowed you to slow your boat by up to 50%.
And folks, that's what's cool about it. The further you raise it, you can adjust the speeds that you're slowing down to. So it's you talk about, so many times, especially tournament anglers, it's fine tuning things that makes a big difference between winning a tournament and taking second place. And here again, you can fine tune this to where you need it, so it just, like I said, I can't say enough about the inventions, and they just keep adding. Which brings me to my next point. And this is one that I'm not sure a lot of people may even know about. So I want to spend a little time on this, but let's talk about the new charging systems that you guys come out with.
Okay. I mean, we're changing our verbiage on this it is 4 devices in one. It's your traditional battery charger that everybody's used to, that you plug in when you get home and it charges all of your batteries. It does that. And it does a quick charge basically on the batteries until they get to a full level. And then it turns into, so the longer you keep it plugged in, the better balanced batteries you're going to have, because it turns into a trickle charger to catch, like if you've got one battery that's just a little bit lower in charge than the others, it's still charged, but it's just a little lower. It'll actually trickle charge that battery by itself to bring it up to the level of the other batteries. The second feature is charge on the run, but it doesn't only allow your cranking battery to be charged while you're on the run. It allows your trolling motor batteries to be charged while on the run as well. So that charge on the run feature is charging all of your batteries, not just your cranking. The third one, again, more popular, everybody kind of knows about it, is an emergency start feature. So if you drain all the batteries in your boat, they still retain about 9 volts of battery power, 9 something, but that's not enough to turn that motor over. So if you hit the emergency start feature on our charge and through the app, then it'll take the little bit of amp voltage that's left in your trolling motor batteries, turn it into 12 volts, give it to your cranking battery so that you can fire up your motor and get back to the ramp.
How important is that, folks? Because we've all been there. You've ran the trolling motor all day, live wells all day. It's been a long day. It's been raining. You just want to get back to the ramp and you have no power. And now you can pull power from everywhere and get back to that ramp. You guys, I'm telling you, Curt, you don't know what a big feature that is, man, for us anglers out there.
For the tournament guys, it's huge, man. It's a security almost. And then there's the last feature, which is the bi-directional charging, which people don't necessarily understand. And this takes place automatically. So as you drain battery power, whether on your trolling motor side or your cranking side, we have the ability to pull power from either side and give it back to the battery that needs it.
Nice, nice.
So those are the 4 features and functions of the power pull charge.
Now, Curt, before we actually got taping this thing, I told you I'm not the video guy at all. I'm old school. I still got a flip phone at work. Okay. But one of the things that is really cool, and I've got to admit to you, I've got to learn to use it a little bit better. Okay. But you guys, when we talk about this charging, this, that, you also have an app that goes to your phone.
Yep. So when you log into the app, if you've got the power pull charge, we'll talk about that one. We'll start actually with the anchors. If you have anchors, you can control, operate, and diagnose and fine tune the anchors through the app. So even if you don't have the charge, you can do that with the anchors. If you have a charge as well, it gives you live feedback on where your battery's status is. So it shows you, the level of charge that each one of them have. And it also shows you what the charge is doing. So if it is moving power from somewhere and giving it to your batteries, it will show you that. Even if you have it plugged in at home, it'll show you that it's giving power from the outlet to your batteries. So you can log into it at any time and check the status of your batteries. And then also activating that emergency start feature, which is, the big benefit that a lot of people are looking for, is done through the app or through an integrated MFD.
There you go. So folks, you've seen on Facebook and stuff, we've got a brand new, beautiful orange BrushPile War Eagle. And it is now, finally, we got everything rigged out with everything that we've talked about today. So Curt, before we close, let me ask you this. Anything on the future you can give us a little hint on? Any new products coming up?
We got some stuff in the works and coming out. I know everybody, most people have heard about the trolling motor coming down the line. I can obviously confirm that we are going to be releasing a trolling motor at some point. Right now, we're just waiting on all the parts and pieces to get here so we can start figuring out what our production rate's going to be and getting them on the market. So right now, it's kind of just that little bit of holding pattern to get everything in and make sure that we have it all here so that we can build them out and get them in the hands of the public.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what, Curt, I know you're a busy man. I really appreciate you taking some time to do this podcast. Been wanting to do this one for you or with you for a while. And I sure appreciate your time, brother.
Not a problem, Russ, man. I appreciate you guys having us on and talking shop.
I'll tell you what, we are scheduled hopefully in January or February. We're going to make a Florida run and do 2 or 3 shows down there. I'd love to get you on the boat one day if you got time, man.
Keep me in mind. I'll come out there if I have availability.
All right, man. It sounds good. Thanks for joining us again, Curt from Power Pole. Folks, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Some very cool inventions they have. And like I say, our new boat is now rigged with everything we just talked about. And as a matter of fact, I'm heading out tomorrow morning and going to put some of those good use. Curt, have a good afternoon, brother.
You too, Russ. We'll talk to you later.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Thank you to all of our sponsors, of course. Stay tuned. We'll have another podcast soon. And again, thanks for joining us, Curt from Power Pole. Have a great day, bud.